Marty, what a week. This has been an intense week. I've been really busy. So you and I we've both been to these conventions. I went to the conservative, the BC provincial conservative AGM. That was an interesting experience. First time for me to do something like that. And fantastic. It went off really well. And you were running for Prime Minister of Canada, it looks like. Yeah. You took the sign. You took the sign.
Oh, they were giving out signs, man. I took the signs. I trolled Mark Miller. It was such a blast. Funny. Like such a blast. Do you want to get into that, or where do you want to start? I mean, I like
why don't we get into that? Because that sounds interesting right off the get-go. Because that's hilarious.
It was interesting. So let me give context to people, right? So we're in the Liberal Party is in the very end of its leadership race. The voting is going on right now, and the vote counting occurs on Sunday. So on Sunday afternoon, we'll have a new prime minister, and the candidates are doing a very quick last round. So I am a liberal. I'm a member of the Liberal Party. I registered as a member of the Liberal Party. I actually voted earlier this week. And so on Monday night, I get an email as a member saying, hey, Mark Carney's going to be in town. Do you want to register to come see him? So I registered to go see him. You get a confirmation email that says you've been registered, but they wouldn't tell us where. They told us what time. They said it was last night. When it's going to be Tuesday night. So and just to that, right? So they told the people that Carney was coming into town less than 24 hours before it happened. They don't want the Liberals right now are controlling Carney. They didn't want the general public there. They didn't want the media. They wanted very controlled. So I registered, but I never got the email confirmation telling me where it was. So, but luckily I have other friends who were successful. They got the email. So I showed up there yesterday, and multiple attempts to get in, I was shut down because I wasn't on their list. Oh no, I wasn't on their list, man. I'm like, but I voted, I did this. I was like, nope, there was security everywhere, and I wasn't on the list. And weirdly, by coincidence, I ran across another friend of mine, and she's like, come with me. You can be my husband. And she had so many problems registering that she registered twice, and she showed up on the list twice. So we managed to convince all the security people that she had registered twice, but in fact, one of them should have been her husband, which was me. So anyway, so I got in. It was crazy, Clyde. I got in, and then I don't know how this happened, because apparently this was funny. Somebody else said this today. Wyatt Claypool said this about me today on one of his tweets, right? He's like, how'd they let you in? You don't look like a liberal. Apparently I don't look like a liberal. Like I don't know what it looks like. But
did you ever get in? There you are, Marty.
Yeah. Well, and so not only did I get in, Clyde, but we got into within feet of the podium, which was an area that was supposed to be restricted for the super fans, like the paid what do you call them? The paid volunteers who cheer. Yeah. No. The paid volunteers who cheer everything Carney said. So I could almost smell him. That's how close I was, and we got to listen to him, and he showed up about an hour and a half late. He had another meeting, a paid meeting afterwards. He showed up an hour and a half late. He gave about a 10-minute speech, very polished. And then all the SEALs clapping, and then he buggered off, and that was it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, I thought he was having rallies. I thought he has these big rallies where everybody shows up, like the news media will tell you.
No, there was this is my take on it. I would say there was about 400 people there. 100 people were volunteers or people with the party. Another 100 people were diehard liberals. I was surprised there's that many liberals in Calgary, but there was 100 people there who were Carney fan. There was probably 100 liberals there who hadn't decided if they're going to vote for Carney. So that's 300. And then there was 100 people like me. There was literally, like, I recognized 30 fellow freedom-loving patriots from Twitter that were there that all got in.
I saw Andy Lee tweeting about it. Was she in
She
there?
was there. Andy Lee
Okay.
was there. I won't name them all because some of them don't want to be ratted out. But yeah.
You were inflating the crowd, Marty. You were making it look like
I
he
was
has
like,
way
look
more
at me.
support
I
than he
was
does.
like this, and I had a blue hoodie. Everybody else was dressed up in suits and ties and red and everything else. I was like anti-liberal, but they let me in.
That's amazing. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, did he have anything significant to say? Was he
No, he
talking
was
policy?
no, he well, he had one interest. He had a couple of things that were he contradicts himself, right? So he says that he speaks truthfully, which is interesting. Like it's like he has a speech that would resonate very well in Quebec, but he uses it in Alberta. I'm like, wow, you guys should have changed your speech because like for instance he openly talked about the fact that he's against tariffs, but they were forced on us, so I'll support tariffs. And then he said, I guarantee that if I'm prime minister and there's still tariffs on, any money we collect from tariffs will be redistributed to Canadians. And then he went on and on about that. Like, you can't redistribute the money unless you're in charge and so forth and so forth. I'm like, wow, you're talking about, equalization and redistribution to an Alberta crowd that normally would boo you. But there were so many volunteers there that they started cheering loud when he said that to hide the boos, because he did get sort of a bit of boos. But
Really?
everything,
He was getting booze even with the liberal crowd.
yeah, well, yeah, actually, one area he got really booed on is I'd say, and talking to the crowd, half the people there have been unable to vote because the app that they use is so garbage. Like people have been trying to register to vote and they can't vote. So he got booed for that because he said something like, well, that's another thing, right? You know how often the liberals talk about Pierre likes to say everything's broken, and then the liberals go on their tirade saying, no, nothing's broken. Canada works fine.
Yeah.
Carney opened up by saying,
Canada's broken.
Canada's broken and I'm here to fix it. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And when he said that, somebody yelled out, your voting sucks or whatever. And he's like, we'll fix that too. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. You have 4 days to fix that. Anyways.
Well, it's funny that they're all upset about the Canada is broken thing when Trudeau ran on Canada is broken back in 2014. That was his thing. Canada is broken. He said they were gonna have the most transparent government in Canadian history. And,
I remember that. Yeah. How'd that turn out, eh? No, and then Carney votes. Carney's running on like Canadians want change. Yeah, you're right. We want change, but we don't want the
not
liberals.
change.
That's not change.
Carney is literally just like a Pez dispenser. You pull one out and he's the next one there.
and he's very subtle, and like he has to distance himself from Trudeau, so he does it in a very subtle way. Like for instance, he said Canadians that want change and Canadians want a leader that won't be divisive. I'm like, well, do you not understand that the current leader has been there for 10 years as a guy named Justin Trudeau? So you're basically saying Trudeau's divisive. And if you challenge him, you're not allowed to challenge. I mean, there was no questions. Nobody could ask him questions, but I would have challenged him on that. Like, what do you mean by we deserve a leader who's divisive? Are you calling Pierre divisive? He's not the leader. Like anyways, it was
because Trudeau has been the divisive one throughout Canada, and he's doing it again. He's doing it again. This whole divisive thing with America and Canada, and it's going everywhere. It's all over Canada. People are freaking out if they see MAGA hats. They're equating it to all kinds of things. Trump derangement syndrome is like on the rise in Canada, and it's unbelievable how much it's flourishing.
Actually, let me segue into this. So people ask me, like, does Carney look serious? And when I listened to Carney talking, and I talked to a few people, I finally understood that people are liking what Carney had to say, because what Carney said is, I'll defend us against Trump. Yeah. He said that, and it resonates. It actually resonates with people. And so Trump inadvertently right now, we talked about this a couple of times now, he's inadvertently giving the liberals a leg up, because somehow or other, Canadians believe that the Liberals are better at defending us from Trump than the Conservatives are, which I find it's fascinating, and I don't think that's the truth, but that's resonating, and I am more inclined to believe that the polls are somewhat truthful. Like the Liberals have gained some headway against the Conservatives in the last since they started their leadership race. And more importantly, I think the Liberals are actually so cocky right now. I'm hearing rumors that right after their election, and they're pretty confident that it's going to be Carney, that soon after they choose their new leader, we're going to have an election declared. They're going to take it. They're going to jump all over this rising popularity and call a snap election to take advantage of.
You think that's going to happen?
Yeah, because they don't want Trump, because they know that Trump will eventually, you will talk about this. I mean, Trump's already backing down on tariffs a little bit, and the Trump derangement syndrome won't last forever. So the Liberals want to capitalize on that. And then I'm hearing really real rumors of a friend of mine who works for Air Canada sent me an email saying like Air Canada's been chartered by different parties to, already to fly around leaders across the country. What's his name? The plebe on Twitter talked about, how offices are being rented and campaign offices are being rented. And some people are saying like, that's just, business as usual. Apparently we've
been in an election season for some time, and they're all ramping up. They have been ramping up for a while, and it's crazy because you hear the rhetoric of it might be irresponsible to have an election at an emergency time like this. What about Doug Ford? He had an election. And he's running on Trump derangement syndrome. And
Trudeau had one. Trudeau's election in 2021 was right during the middle of COVID. We've had him. Like he called a snap election during the middle of COVID. Actually,
Absolutely.
We told him that was irresponsible to do. And he's like, no, there's a precedent set that using the excuse of a crisis to avoid an election that wouldn't fly.
No, it won't fly.
Yeah.
But here's some of the words from Doug Ford. This cracks me up because this is the kind of thing that he's sharing out there. Doug Ford, I wouldn't start this tariff war, but I'm going to win this tariff war, he's saying. And how about booze? Of course, no more booze. So we're not going to get any more booze for Ontarians. This is what he's saying.
So you won't be back before March 15. What can you do for the tariff until there, and what do you intend to do about the tariff?
Well, these are a couple of things that I'm responsible for as a province. The federal government's leading the charge. The communication has been fabulous with the PM and the government as well. I said, number one, I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war. Right off the hop.
Like seals.
I've directed the LCBO, the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, to remove every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves.
This is ridiculous, right? So the idea that, and I don't know why people don't see through this. I guess maybe it's you and I with libertarian sensibilities where we think that the government shouldn't run everything. The first thought in my head was, hey, that's the problem right there. That the government is the largest supplier of alcohol in the world. No other state runs their alcohol business like this, where they've taken over the sales of alcohol entirely as a monopoly, a state-owned monopoly. How about we get rid of that? Doug Ford, before you go preaching to Donald Trump that we should laissez-faire capitalist and allow things to freely trade over the border, how about you fairly trade and freely trade within your own province? Or how about amongst the provinces? Because this is unbelievable, the kind of trade restrictions that already exist within the country, let alone international trade restrictions.
And alcohol was the I guess the flavor of the month this week, or the flavor of the week. I mean, Wob Canoe in Manitoba did almost the same thing. Even here in Alberta, Danielle Smith said, we're going to make that. And we have private liquor stores.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
We have private liquor stores. And here in Alberta, she said, we're going to make people pull the American booze off the shelf. Danielle Smith comment got picked up and made fun of by libs of TikTok. Okay, Danielle, way to go, Danielle. Like, you're supposed to be the most conservative. You're supposed to be the most conservative most conservative premier in the country, and you got made fun of by libs of TikTok today.
Good. I'm glad
Yeah.
that happened, because she needs a little reality check
Yeah.
to remember.
No, I
remember where she came from, honestly. Because
no, you're right. Like
it's
like,
crazy, the drastic difference between what's been happening in Alberta. Like, I know we can come back to the tariffs thing, but since we're on the topic of Alberta and what's going on there, like Danielle Smith has had a completely a big turnaround in opinions here. Now I have a video of what was happening. A friend of both of ours that that we both know, and he's getting together.
I was there. I was actually in the room when this was being recorded.
Okay, well, you can tell me more about it. Let's play this for the audience. This is Jeff Rath, a high-powered lawyer in Alberta, and someone who wants independence for the province.
There's a statehood.
Well, there's a group of Albertans that are working together right now to put together a delegation to go to Washington to talk to the Trump administration about Alberta petitioning for U.S. statehood. It's quite evident that we're being governed by idiots in Ottawa who don't understand we're in a trade war with our largest trading partner, and rather than simply apologizing to President Trump for not meeting our NATO commitments and not adequately securing our border, apparently the Trudeau government has decided to declare a trade war and run up trillions of dollars in costs like they did during COVID on a made-up emergency. So there's a number of us in Alberta that have had enough and want to go speak with the Trump administration about the benefits of Alberta joining the United States.
And I talked to him, and he said that I asked him, whose ear do you have right now? And he says, I can't tell you right now, but it's up there. It's way up there. And we're going to be meeting down there within the month to have some negotiations.
There's a bit to unpack there. First of all, Jeff Rath is, I call him the, actually, I won't call him that. But he's the Alex Jones of the law world.
You just called him that.
That's what I like calling him, because he's really cool that way. Yeah. He's representing Carrie Sakamoto, who was the lady who was injured by the vaccine, and in a lawsuit against Alberta and Ottawa. So that's who Jeff Rath is.
Yes.
And then that was filmed on Tuesday or Monday afternoon. Just in advance of an Injection of Truth Part 2, which is an event that just happened, and I went to that event. So that event is the second time that this event's been put on, which is famous doctors coming to a conference and talking about the insanity of COVID. I won't get into the details with it. So there was a press conference beforehand to get to talk to the doctors. Me and Rachel drove together to that conference. So. And Jeff was supposed to be interviewed because Jeff was there speaking at the conference as a person who's bringing on a lawsuit. But then he went on this other bit and he divulged this other information. So now I want to say this. Danielle yesterday or today in a press conference was asked, like, do you think there's any growing sentiment for a separate Alberta? And she's like, oh no, I talked to people and nobody mentions that. It's like, Danielle, did you see that video? That video of Jeff talking got 6 million views. It got picked up by Charlie Kirk and others in the United States. It got reposted, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of times, bookmark, you name it. And the comments are crazy. So if you don't think there's a separatist movement growing in Alberta and perhaps even in BC, it's all a consequence of Trudeau and others. Anyways,
Marty, do you know who else has a real strong sentiment about Alberta and sovereignty? Danielle Smith from a few years ago. That's right. So let me share this video because I had to dig this one up. A lot of people were using this as dirt on Danielle Smith, as like, don't vote for her because she's
share the link after this. I want this video when you're done. I want the link.
I'll send it to you. I have it downloaded, so I'll make sure you have it. But here it is.
Maybe does need to be some more collaboration between our 4 Western provinces. And if you go and just draw the line straight down North America, maybe all the way down to Texas, maybe that needs to be the new alignment of how our trade ties work. And then we can still have a relationship with Canada and Ottawa, but it will no longer be our most important relationship. Our most important relationship should be with our peers who we will have more direct trading relationships with. And the country never really made sense east-west. It still doesn't. Because if you look at the fact that we don't even have an east-west pipeline, for instance, that gives you an indication of how difficult it is to try to get anything done across the entire country. Maybe we should start just make a decision that we're going to work together on regional interests and create, because we do have this new West partnership, and we do have mechanisms to do it. Maybe you formalize it, and then you broaden it out and just spend more time developing collaborations with people who want to collaborate with you. I feel like we keep on banging our head against the wall, asking Quebec and Ontario to love us, and they don't.
I like this lady. Who is she?
I've never seen this, Clyde. Where'd you find that?
Wow,
That's a great
who's that
video.
lady? I like her a lot.
Yeah. No, not to exclusively pick on Danielle. This week was again one of those eye openers for me. I'm trying so hard. I hate people who keep saying if you vote for Pierre, you're voting for the Uni Party and whatever. I'm trying hard to not believe in the Uni Party. But this week, so far this week, the last 3 days, I'm losing hope, man. I mean, look at the comments that Pierre made this week. Like they're virtually identical to what Trudeau proposed.
Which ones, Marty? Was it the Slava Ukraini that got you, or was it
the Slava Ukraine that I support the tariffs, that we're gonna, like all of that. Slava Ukraine. You want to talk about that one, or we'll save?
No, we're not. We'll save that one. I want to talk about this because I think that this is a serious issue. So we have these tariffs that have come on, and people don't understand how the tariffs work. I had to do a video today. I felt compelled to do a video, or I'm just talking to the audience about these tariffs and what they actually mean, what they are, and what the purpose of them is, because the media is not telling you this at all. They're not telling you what the truth about it. They're conflating the two runs of tariffs as if they're the same thing, and they're pretending like Donald Trump is mistaking the dates and times for when these tariffs come about, because he'll one day he'll say April 2nd, and then he'll say March 4th, and they'll say he doesn't even know what he's doing anymore. He's not doing this right. Maybe he's senile, all this stuff, right? It's not true. There's two sets of tariffs, and I had to explain this. One is a punitive tariff arrangement, and just think of it as a sanction. It's a 25% charge on all your products that come into the United States, all of the Canadian products, all of the Mexican products coming into the United States, and it's punitive because of the border situation, of the narcotics situation, that especially that one that starts with F, that really bad one that's being manufactured in Canada. And guess what? Our RCMP is turning a blind eye to it. They know that there's 4,000 organizations working within the country, working alongside with the Communist Party of China to bring the stuff in and manufacture it in Canada. It doesn't matter if only a portion of it's going down through the border. At some point, when the United States cleans up their scene, it's going to create a vacuum, a demand for the stuff, and it's going to flow into America. So this is why Donald Trump is hard going into this. Now, I want to say,
and hang on, additional proof that, like you said, that they're punitive is they're against Mexico and Canada with borders with the US. Those kinds of tariffs are not against whatever Venezuela or Italy or France, because they don't have a border with us, and Trump doesn't have a border issue. So you're right. He's imposed some punitive, you guys have been bad boys, you haven't cleaned up your mess, and I'm going to punish you. So yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. And they made some calls, and they said, yeah, okay, well, we'll do this. It got postponed for a month. And then they wanted another postponement, and they said, nah, we're not going to postpone. You didn't follow through. We're putting them on you. So they got put on. Now, before we get into, things that were alleviated, negotiations that happened on the day, the other set of tariffs are coming on April 2nd. He made sure it was on the 2nd, so nobody thought it would be an April Fool's joke. This is for real. And these are retaliatory tariffs. And it's funny because the government of Canada, any politician now, after the rhetoric that they've been saying, including Pierre Poilievre, who knows better, which I know who knows better. I've seen the books that he's read, and I'm assuming he read them because he speaks very well and articulate. They all know that the same rhetoric that they've been saying, the tariff, tariff, dollar for dollar tariffs, we're going to target your stuff if you target our things. This is what Donald Trump is doing. They know that's the type of strategy that you use when it's a trade war, when the purpose of the tariffs is to get the other side to eliminate their tariffs. And so what Donald Trump is doing is he's saying, you have trade restrictions, you have this, that, and it's going across the board. It's not just on Mexico and Canada, this round of tariffs, it's on England, because he on Europe, he's targeted the VAT tax system that they have there, which is, it's a trade imbalance. Now, and he's also talking about, and this is why I think the messaging is really bad on the conservative side. It's going to be bad on the Liberals, NDP, regardless. But the reason why I think it's bad on the conservative side is he's touching the third rail that will make or break politicians in this country, the supply management system. And Donald Trump is targeting that with this set of tariffs. And he's saying, okay, well, you're going to put 250% tariffs on a product. I'll put 250% tariffs on a select product, and I'll try to match that, whatever, and make it fair. But he wants to make that fair in the hopes that they will alleviate that. Now, nobody wants to talk about supply management. Maxime Bernier, career destroyed because of talking about supply management. You're not going to get a very long political career if you start talking about the dairy lobby and all of these things. Alberta was very lucky in getting rid of their supply management with the wheat board, which was great. And listen, Canada needs to get rid of this mafia.
No, I don't disagree with anything, but already just today, there's already a few problems with Trump's strategy. I mean, today Trump had to pull back on automotive tariffs because so he announced that today. I'm going to pull back on those because I agree, he wants to do what he wants to do, and he's allowed to do it, but he's getting pushed back internally because there is a cost to themselves to do this. I mean, he can punish us, but weirdly, in punishing us, they punish themselves. So, as an example, so the reason they reversed the tariffs on vehicles today, the most popular vehicle in North America is the Ford F-150, and one of the places where a bunch of Ford F-150s are made is in Ontario. And so, and if you're an American buying a Ford F-150 that came from Ontario, the car price went up, $12,000 today. Man, can imagine the dealers that are in Ontario, or I don't know, you're a dealer in Montana. You're like, wow, everybody's just going to drive across the border like we do. That's so weird, right? I live in Alberta. We used to drive across the border to go buy the trucks in Alberta and bring them back here. Now they're coming here to buy them. And
you know why you do that, Marty? You know why you do that?
Well, because I'm a cheap bugger? No, why?
Because Canada has a 45% tariff on automobiles.
Yeah.
This is what I'm getting at. Canada has been a bad actor for so long in this. They have so many tariffs and trade protection things where it doesn't even make sense in some cases, but they still have them. They have all these trade barriers to entry, everything from tariffs to supply management systems where you actually have quotas for how much is allowed to come into the country, and then you have it's across the board.
We're 100% on the same page. I mean, to me, I've been saying all week, I've been saying for a month there, we shouldn't do anything about tariff. In fact, we should do something with the tariffs. The tariffs are a wake-up call. The tariffs are a wake-up call. Our border sucks. Our productivity sucks. We restricted ourselves to only one big market. We have internal trade barriers. Like the tariffs are exposing a whole bunch of flaws with our system. And what we should do, it sucks, but what we should do right now is we should take it on the chin for a while and fix our mess. But when we retaliate, we're not accepting the wake-up call, and it's going to get ugly. I mean, I made a tweet today. It was a very cute tweet. I said, if you have a pizza shop in a neighborhood and you're the only restaurant who's not making money at your pizza shop, would it make sense to jack up your price and criticize your clients? No. What you do in that case is you improve the pizza, your taste, and you entice your clients to come in with something that they want to do. So Canada's the pizza shop right now, and what are we doing? We're pissed off at the Americans because they're slapping tariffs on us. Let's but
we're not even playing good cop, bad cop in this.
Yeah, and let me mention this again. I want to mention this because I mentioned it a bunch of times. The tariffs right now, at worst, at worst, would maybe cost us 75 to 100 billion dollars. And 75 to 100 billion dollars for us is a chunk of our economy. For the Americans, 75 to 100 billion dollars is minuscule because their economy is 18 or 13 times bigger than ours. Like watching what's his name puffing his chest today, like Doug Ford, I'm going to win this tariff war. No, Doug, you're not going to win the tariff war. They're 10 times bigger than us.
Well,
Like,
here we
it's
have
crazy.
it. Tariff retaliation by Canada and Mexico would cause higher inflation than otherwise in all three countries. But look at the scale of that inflation. Like the US, they're seeing, almost 0.5% inflation. It would go up to almost 1% inflation. But our
Ooh.
inflation would rise a whole lot
Yeah.
lot more, and so would Mexico. Not
Yeah.
only that, it's like it's insane. This is the way it's going. GDP. I had another graph somewhere. I misplaced it right now, but another one was GDP would go
GDP,
down
foreign investment coming
massive.
into Canada, all sorts of things. I mean, we're like anybody who thinks we're going to win a trade war. That's what a ridiculous comment. But and I keep saying this. I mean, yeah, Trump. Like I went to the event the other day, and Carney makes stupid comments, but he's a politician. The ones that annoy me are the people who cheer. Like Doug Ford has to make stupid comments. He's a politician. So if Doug Ford says we're going to win this trade war, he has to. He's the politician. You, as the member of the public, don't have to cheer him on for that. You have to say, "Boo, you're wrong." Like, wake
Well, and
up,
so here's the thing. So Doug Ford is making all kinds of crazy statements. He's talking about the booze and all that, but he also he's threatening to get rid of Starlink and Elon Musk, obviously. Whatever,
he did already.
Yeah. And he already said, fine, don't buy my product. But he also threatened to shut off the power of 1.5 million Americans' homes. Like that is not only irresponsible, that could be seen as an act of war.
I'm glad you said that, because when the Americans did that to Japan, that launched a war. That's how World War II started for the Japanese. They were starved of their oil.
But the virtue signaling over this stuff. So incidentally, another YouTuber by the name of Mr. Sunshine Baby, I met him, by the way, at the Conservative Convention in British Columbia. He mentioned this on his YouTube channel. He says a few more expletives, which is funny. It's his quip. It's his way he does his thing. But this got its way all the way to the legislature because, incidentally, he was sitting in the rafters. He was watching it at the British Columbia legislature, and it got brought up in the hall. You got to hear this clip. It is too funny, but this is just how ridiculous it's gotten.
The leader of the opposition got up and said some words about standing up for Canada. Well, it's important that we all stand up for Canada. And I'm a firm believer, Honourable Speaker, that when you wear the hat, you support the team. And so when we hear from a leader of the opposition, when we hear... Members. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. So I won't address all the issues I have with the opposition when it comes to those on his side who want to wear a MAGA hat. But I do have a question for the Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Speaker. Does he think it's appropriate, Honourable Speaker? Does he think it's appropriate that a member of his caucus stands up in this House today and introduces someone known as Mr. Sunshine Baby, seated in the gallery? And I'll tell you what it has to do, Honourable Speaker, because yesterday the person that introduced by this caucus, Honourable Speaker, posted a video that said, the fat pig Doug Ford in Ontario is ready to cut off the power, and Liberals are cheering him on. This is quite literally, by definition, an act of war. Honourable Speaker, does the Leader of the Opposition think it's appropriate for a member of his caucus to introduce somebody like that when tariffs are the greatest issue?
Oh man, they freak out. They lose their mind. They're losing their mind over it. But they're losing their mind over the words, the fat pig part. But what about the act of war part that he aptly and justifiably pointed out? Like Mr. Sunshine Baby obviously was right in this scenario. But it's like you call a guy a fat pig and then all of that goes away. Get out of town.
Ford and Trudeau and others now, this is becoming a real possibility for Alberta. we might be faced with an export tax. Not only will we have a tariff on the other side and an import tariff, but they're going to hit us with an export tax. They want to force Alberta to shut off the oil to the US.
Which is
like,
that's shutting
that's
off
insane.
oil from Ontario.
Yeah, that's completely. And I said, by the way, I said this on Twitter. If they force us to do that, I'm personally driving to the Alberta-Saskatchewan border on the Trans-Canada Mainline, and I'm going to go shut off the gas. Like I'm unapologetic about that. If Ontario makes us do something stupid, I know enough guys that we can shut down the gas to Alberta. I'm not gonna to Eastern Canada. Like if we're gonna get stupid, we're gonna get absolutely over the top stupid.
Yeah, that's getting stupid. Okay, you heard it here first, folks. That's what's gonna happen. But here's the thing. So we thought, right, sweet, we will have a savior. At least we'll have our savior. We'll have the savior, or at least
hang on 1 second. Go back to that. Don't go back to the clip. But so who introduced Mr. Sunshine Baby? So it was the NDP. I don't know that. Like
no. It was a conservative member that introduced Mr. Sunshine Baby.
Okay, that's why.
So they would have met at the conference.
At the conference, right?
Because there was a lot of us. I was there. Jasper Sunshine was there, and we were meeting all the members of the Conservative Party. It was great. It's fantastic.
How'd you end up there? Did you get selected as a constituent? Like, because BC has very strict rules. So you were one of the 10. Each constituency association could only send 10 members. So you were selected.
There was only 3 in my riding. So
okay.
Yeah, I was one of the 3. I signed up and I got it.
Yeah, because your AGM is not open to members at large, whereas ours in Alberta is. Like, you don't just have to be a member of a constituency. We don't limit it. You don't have to be selected. Just Joe member can show up.
Oh, I couldn't just sign up. I had to be approved. I went through an approval process, but I got it. And then I was able to go in, and I was able to be a delegate for that.
And roughly how many propositions or motions were voted on? Like policy? Were you there for the policy section? Or?
Yeah, I was there for the policy section. It was a huge change to the constitution of the party. Now there was a number of people that were quite upset about it. In fact. They didn't like some of the changes that were going to take place, and they were voting. They were showing their discontent to that. And we're talking people who've been around in the Conservative Party for a very long time.
That's good. So it wasn't. So there was good debate. It wasn't always a slam dunk on. Not always a slam dunk on every policy. That's good.
Yeah, and so there was concessions made. So, for example, one of the things was they wanted to propose that the presidency and the board stay in that position for 4 years instead of the 1 year that it currently was. And there was a lot of disagreement on that one. So they found a middle ground, and they settled on 2 years. So that's reasonable. 1 year is too often. It costs too much money for the party. And 4 years it seems a little long. So they found a good meet. They met in the middle there. And so some people were, still.
Yeah, no, I thought you might have been there as a member of the media invited in that capacity, but because there were media people, right?
That's right.
Kat was there and others, and they showed up as media, but you were there as a voting member. Interesting.
I'm gonna keep segueing back to the same thing, but I gotta say, John Rustad, when he did his speech, and all of these guys that did their speeches, especially John Rustad, and I spoke to him personally, they have great messaging. Their messaging is fantastic. And I even said to him, I said, can you call up the federal Conservatives, maybe give them some advice? Because I'd like to see some messaging like this. Because this is the rhetoric that we want. How about a little bit of common sense? I keep going back to common sense. I thought that was the slogan. We got rid of slogans. Why was that the first one to hit the chopping block? Honestly, John Rustad coming forward and saying, no, we need to work with our partners in the United States of America are right there. We do all of our business across this border, and we need to make sense of this. And he was speaking so rationally. It was great, and it riled a lot of people up, and it was fantastic. I'm just really not super content with what's going on now. Getting back to what you were saying about Alberta separation, we've got that hot button issue of talking on the federal level, the third rail of talking about supply management. Well, the other thing that the Conservatives won't touch is transfer payments. Pierre Poilievre has come out and said, I'm not getting into that. We're not doing that. And I did some more reading, and it looks like they won't be even discussing that. It's not even on the ticket until 2029. So why are they risking everything in this position? Like, this is a really losing position when it comes to Alberta, because
they're going to sacrifice Alberta.
No,
Pierre needs to win Ontario and Quebec. That's it. Like, it's
at the risk of losing Alberta as a province of the country is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is really what it's coming down to. America is coming in, and with this delegation, I don't know, they might come with a pretty sweet deal, and Albertans might look at that and go, referendum time. Let's do it. Let's go.
I mean, in all fairness, I like Jeff's speech, and like I said, Jeff is the Alex Jones of the Alberta Law Society. Do I think he's actually going to get an audience? Probably not. But it's an interesting thing. It brings up a good sentiment. And I mean, but also at the same time, let's be realistic. If Carney gets elected, and if they call a snap election, and somehow or other the Liberals win again, then the country is in a I don't know why people don't see it. That
we're cooked.
We're cooked, exactly. But I don't know. I don't understand why people don't see that. I don't understand why people don't see that. But
my fear though is like, because I had big hopes for Pierre Poilievre, and he riled up his base. When it came to winning the Conservative nomination, he was out there and he was unapologetic about all the things. This is what I believe in. This is what's going to happen. This is what we should do as Conservatives in Canada. And this is, said all the great things, all the right things, the right timing, and then as soon as it's no longer voting for Conservatives, all Conservatives, now it's the Liberal mix. And it seems like, let me just put it this way. I think that when he's on his own, he shines. If he's in an orchard somewhere and somebody confronts him, they'll give him what for, and he'll make international headlines with that. That's the Pierre that needs to be running for Prime Minister, not this the Freudian slip there. The PR Poilievre. Holy cow, I think I just coined something. We don't need that. This guy that's going to watch out for what he's saying and be, focus groups and all of this stuff. You're losing your own support in this way.
Clyde, I'm 100% with you. I've been saying this online for about 4 months now. The crescendo of people who criticize me for pointing that out. I'm pointing out a strategy, and everybody always says to me, don't you think Pierre has better strategists than you, Marty? And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Then ignore me. And Pierre can be like Andrew Scheer and Aaron O'Toole. Like, that's what I say. Yeah. Like, you're throwing it in my face that I'm just a nobody who doesn't understand political strategy. That's fine. I agree. But
sure.
Yeah.
But here's a political strategy, right?
Come out conservative. That's a strategy.
Well, be conservative, but come out bolsterous. But you don't even have to be absolutely conservative on all things. Be bolsterous. Come out, say what you think, say what you mean, and say it unapologetically. And you know what people will tell you? They'll tell you that's unelectable. Well, guess what? They said that about Donald Trump in the United States.
They said that about they'll say it about Donald Trump, Javier Milei, Ron DeSantis, a whole bunch of people are unelectable. And no, that's actually an amazing thing. If as a politician, I don't know why they don't understand this. If you say what you say and you do what you say, you're going to get elected.
Yeah.
Like
you will.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. We're in the next I mean, I was looking forward to this show. I'm extremely looking forward to next week. Like, think about this, Clyde, when you and I meet and talk like this, and folks listening, when we get together next week on Wednesday, in a week from now, we have a new prime minister. And all bets are off.
Oh, wow.
We might be off to the races. We might, think about that. In a week from now, our new prime minister will be elected on the Liberal vote closes at 5 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. And it's a ranked ballot, but they use computers today. So I'm guessing by 6 p.m. next week, which is what our time Eastern time, 3:00 our time on Sunday. By 3:00 our time, they'll have gone through the first round. I don't think anybody's going to win the first round. It's too close. Like, I don't think Carney or Freeland can get 50% of the vote. So then they'll eliminate who's going to be last? Frank Bayless. And then there'll be a second,
the no-name guy that nobody knows.
The no-name guy. And then there'll be a second round of counting.
He's the guy on Star Trek that gets out of the the ship first. Right?
There'll be a second round of counting about an hour later. And because the way the ranked ballots work is whoever has the least votes is eliminated, and their votes are distributed to everybody else. It's all done by computers. It's not like everybody votes a second time. I voted. I got my ballot this week. You just put your first, second, third, fourth choice. I didn't do 4 people. I only put my first choice because I don't want I know how ranked ballots work. Your second choices gets given to somebody else. And I'm like, nope, nobody gets my second choice. And so anyways, long story short, I think by 7 p.m., I think by 2:00 on Sunday, our time here, we'll know who the new prime minister is.
It's going to be...
Trudeau's already said, did you see the news today? Trudeau's already said, I might not step down. Jesus.
We got to get into it, Marty. We got to get into it.
What are we doing? Yeah.
So he said, so it was asked, okay, when the next leader is selected, when will you step down? And the next leader step into the place. And he said, I don't know. This will have to be discussed. And there's a lot of discussion.
Transition and
all those things. Like, we've been having a transition for some time. Now, the best part is Donald Trump called it out. And he said, oh, I see what's going on here. I put this on Twitter. Just going to leave this here. Not going to say I told you so or anything like that. Just put it there. Justin Trudeau of Canada, says Donald Trump, called me to ask why what could be done about the tariffs. I told him many people have died from the bad F word that came through the borders of Canada and Mexico, and nothing has convinced me that it has stopped. He said that it's gotten better, but I said, that's not good enough. The call ended somewhat friendly manner. He was unable to tell me when the Canadian election is taking place, which made me curious, like, what's going on here? Then I realized, is he trying to use this issue to stay in power? Good luck, Justin.
So Trump finally realized that he was inadvertently helping the Liberals and Trudeau. He wants him gone, but he inadvertently was helping. So that was a good tweet.
Well,
thank you, Mr. President. That was a good tweet.
It was a good tweet. And it says a lot. But it does lend to the fact that, okay, he probably understands Ontario, Southwestern Ontario is the place. This is the battleground, right? This is the battleground for votes. And if Trump really upsets Southwestern Ontario, that could really throw things for the Liberals. What would upset the Southwestern Ontario the most? The automotive sector. It is like
the automotive sector,
humongous part of Southwestern Ontario. You know, I came from Motor City, and that's the thing. These tariffs would shut down the auto sector. Period.
Do you guys actually call Windsor Motor City?
Well, I mean, it's part of Motor City.
I mean, that's Detroit, right? Motor City is Detroit.
They actually call it Windsor, Detroit. It's
Windsor, Detroit. Okay, got it. Hey, just on that Trump tweet. Mr. President, next time, instead of a phone call, just invite Trudeau to the Oval Office and do a big press conference and have JD Vance right there with you. And maybe you guys can
talk about it for about 50 minutes and then the media will clip the last little 30.
Yeah, and then send him home without a lunch. Please do that next time.
We all know.
Can you imagine you're the guy? Like, that was so. I mean, we didn't even talk about. I don't even think I want to talk about it too much. The Zelensky thing is done and it's finished and done. But like, he was supposed to have lunch with the president, but he basically kicked him out of the White House. And then Trump turns to the whole press gallery. He's like, well, I guess we got lunch. You guys want to stay for lunch? And then everybody stuck around for lunch. Like, the lunch that was supposed to be for Zelensky got shared by the whole press gallery. I love Trump. And it was probably Big Macs and cheeseburgers. You know how Trump is, right? Like,
well, it was a moment for the media to spin the issue, right? They didn't comment on the fact that Zelensky was being rude throughout and not being very.
They didn't show the first 40 minutes. Most stations didn't show the first 40 minutes.
Well, that's it, and that's where all the context of the clip came from. So throughout the whole thing, Trump is a very good negotiator, and he's trying his best to negotiate a peace deal. And Zelensky's calling Vladimir Putin names, and he's saying all this stuff. These are not things you do in the middle of a trade negotiation or into a negotiation for peace. And it really wasn't well done. He started throwing insults out at the vice president and whatnot. It did not end well.
But I watched most of the first 40 minutes. I did go back and look at it. I could see the moment where it went sideways. And in fact, Trump's the guy who made it go sideways. And it was all he didn't even notice when it happened, I think. But Trump made a pretty crude comment about, it's just lives or whatever, something along those lines. And if I had heard the same thing, like, Zelensky at that point went like, well, yeah, maybe to you it might just be lives, but to me it's a million people. And by the way, I think it's a bit of crocodile tears, because Zelensky, if you really cared about the million people, you would have solved this years ago. You would have worked harder to solve it. But at some point I can see where that went. I've been in rooms like that before, not that kind of room, but I've been in negotiations as a businessman where sometimes it gets heated, and then usually somebody calmly says, hey, let's take 5 here. Let's all get a water, a coffee, get up and go walk around. I'm surprised nobody stepped in. Like, it got ugly. I felt sorry for.
Well, the media wants these things to get ugly. That's the point.
Yeah.
They like that stuff to get ugly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could go on about that at length, but at the end of the day, what happened? Well, Zelensky came back and he walked his statements back, and they're working on a peace deal. So that's where it's going. That's where it's going. Despite all the efforts of all of our politicians in Canada, Ukraine is going to reach peace with
and Trump will appear like a genius again. Maybe he is. I mean, I've asked 2 questions. Like, I'll ask you the same 2 questions. Like, is he a genius, or is he, like everybody else, compromised? Like, some days I don't know. Like, some days I go, like, what is he? Like, I'd
have to say that you'd have to be quite smart or extremely lucky to have so many business deals go your way over the years. So
you make your own luck, they say, right? You make your luck.
Yeah. So it's not luck. It's intelligence, and you got to hand it to the guy. He's been able to do a whole myriad of jobs and do it in his own way, which is definitely not your standard politician. I wouldn't say that. No. But I think Trump is really setting the stage in this presidency for an 8-year term for JD Vance. And I think that's going to be the plot moving forward. And I think that's the plan.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see him. I mean, we're not like we're seeing him more than we typically see a vice president, right? Like, usually vice presidents like doing your own thing, but he is kind of
negotiating prosecutors getting fired in Ukraine. Yeah, that's what they're usually doing.
I saw one comment the other day I found a little unusual. They there was a picture of Vance with his wife, and they called her the second lady. I'm like, ooh, that's a shitty title. I bet you she doesn't like being called the second lady.
It's always been called that, Marty. Anyway, Marty.
I know, but yeah.
Where can people find you?
Are we done already? Is it the hour?
It's the hour.
Yeah. You can find me on Marty Up North as on Twitter, and Marty Up North on YouTube. Yeah.
Do this again next week.
Absolutely. It's going to be next week. We have a new prime minister when we do this again. Man, that's crazy.